You're listening to Rock Out With, hosted by me, Danny Faye. There we go. Okay, so hey and welcome on to Rock Out With. Thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us.
If you just want to introduce yourself so everybody knows.
I'm Dev from Punishment Essay. I do shouting and general noise making.
I'm Sean from Punishment Essay. I play the bass and I do all the high bits that he can.
Son of a... True.
One. The first one.
That's one.
Oh, is there anyone missing or is it just the two of you?
We're the main guys.
Yeah.
We hire in help as and when we need sort of extras. We just find that other people sort of slow the process down.
Yeah, so you tend to use like session musicians and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm down in the south and Sean's up north, so it makes sense to pick up people local to where we're doing the show. So one of us has to go the furthest distance, but not loads of us.
Whereabouts in the south are you? Because I'm down south as well.
Portsmouth, right on the coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for my sins.
Yeah, see, I'm southeast.
Yeah, it's nice in the southeast. It's yeah, you feel my pain being down here, right? The rock scene down here is
shit.
Yeah, that's the words I would use. That's the word I was looking for. It's bad, you know.
What's it like up north?
Cold.
Yeah, on the rock scene.
I'm from a small town. Oh, the rock scene. Cold.
I think he was right the first time.
No, it's good. It's still there. There's a lot of bars in Manchester. I'm from a small town about an hour away. But you still hear about it. You got Manchester, Liverpool, then over Yorkshire as well. They still seem to be doing a lot of gigs at sort of like lower levels as well. And yeah, there's still bands out there.
Always good to hear.
Right, there's like one venue left in Portsmouth. That's it. You know,
one more than I've got there.
So really nothing there.
All I've got around here is locally it's just pubs, which obviously you've got like the tiny. It's a step in the corner.
Yeah,
that's it.
That sounds like some of the glamorous venues we've been looking at recently.
Yep.
So yeah, right. Let's just jump straight into it and talk about your new single, Covered in Blue.
You up and say, I guess I'm falling apart again. Can't put a finger on why. I guess I'm just a bit of a dick sometimes. You're introverted, extroverted, you're so heavily perverted. Trying to create, but you never want to wait. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
It's out next month, is that right?
6th of May, I believe.
6th of May, okay. Because I'm confused about the dates, because obviously on your Facebook it says the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously on your press releases it says the 6th, with the video on the 4th. So it's like, what day?
Well, yeah.
There's a process to that madness.
Yeah, there is a process to this. Essentially, with social media and algorithms being the way they are, we found that because we've released a couple of things off the album and we're trying to do it periodically. We found if you drop everything on the same day, people will gravitate towards one or the other. Maybe the video on YouTube, maybe Spotify, something like that. But we found if you stagger it, so you've got the video so people can sort of watch and that can filter in, that tends to get more traffic on the first day. And then the next day it goes for physical release. And it goes for sort of Bandcamp style. People can buy it. And then it goes to Spotify where, you know, all good music goes to die.
Oh dear, yeah, well put.
Yeah, that's the idea of splitting it up. And I think we signed with a label for distribution and they're dealing with all the physical side of things for us. And so we let them know we were putting a single out, and that seems to have put the cat amongst the pigeons with them. They're like, You can't do that. We're like, well, we're doing it. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, fingers crossed, it not badly.
Yeah.
It's working all right so far.
Yeah. A little bit of friction goes a long way.
Yeah.
So let's not clip that for anything.
Yeah.
Too late. Lizzie?
Too late.
So how does the song differ from your other songs?
Pacing. Big time. It's not the big rock song, but it's still got its place. It still packs a punch. You know, it still kicks your ass a little bit as well. But it's a slower pace than it was. It starts off and you sort of listen in, and then bang.
It's got much more dynamics to it.
Yeah,
I think if you look at the album as a whole, it was very reactionary to losing a really good friend of mine, and sort of contemplating loss and death and things like that, but trying to do it in an upbeat manner. You know, there's enough albums out there with people addressing it completely bleak. So it's more like looking back and being mindful of death rather than sort of, you know, burning churches. You know, that's all behind me now. But the album is quite aggressive in that sense, sonically. So it felt nice to have it come down a notch and be a little bit more introspective into the joys of being on your own. You know? Celebrate isolation. There's so many COVID songs out there, and I got fed up with people talking of the politics of it. And, you know, you had these punk bands saying things like, "Oh, I don't want to wear a mask," and you're like, "Oh, shut up! Like, that's boring." You know, I wanted to talk about the fact that I really enjoyed lockdown. It was great. You know, I was sat by myself. So
yeah, I loved it.
It was amazing. That's all I've ever wanted. You know, just wanted to be at home, getting drunk, making music. You know, so and I wanted to celebrate that a little bit and make it sound like it was, you know, make it sound good too.
So the next question was, what's the song about? Obviously, you've said it's like about the isolation and stuff. Was that because of your friend or lockdown or loads of different things?
Well, I think during lockdown, people got time to think for the first time in a long time, and I suppose a lot of people didn't like what they suddenly had to think about.
Yeah.
And I sort of sat there and sort of thought, I'm really enjoying this. You know, I'm enjoying slowing everything down, and it's hard, you know, because admitting that means that how can I put it? My phone was ringing a lot more during lockdown than it was before. And I became more reclusive. I found it harder to pick up the phone. And yet I was talking to more people, you know, through chatting and stuff. But people who actually mattered to me, I found myself more withdrawn from them. And I found that kind of an interesting thing that was happening. I was more drawn to the attention of strangers than, you know, reassuring people that actually did care. And yeah, I think that's what triggered the song. Also them messaging me being like, "You're a dick, you never answer your phone." So that is also true. Terrified of answering the phone. Who isn't?
I think that's a generational thing. It's like we just watch it ring. Like, yeah.
Is there anything more aggressive than when someone texts you, "How you doing?" "I'm good." Phone rings. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Who has that level of confidence? You know?
It was the opposite for me. People ring and then I'll message them back 10 minutes later going, "Oh, I missed your call. What did you want?"
Yeah. That's such a pro move, man. Such a pro move.
Yeah, yes, because like half the time you're texting whilst you're on the toilet and you're like, I'm not going to answer the phone.
No, I'm certainly not going to video chat. As brilliant as that would be, you know.
They wouldn't ring you again, so maybe that's the answer.
Well, no
comment.
Depending at what stage they caught you at, you know. They might think you are in grave peril.
So obviously you touched about talking about an album, which you've got plans to release one later in the year. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it was recorded. It was actually recorded Christmas last year, so the end of 2022, and it was mixed and mastered over the next couple of months. And we went into pre-sales and sort of let people know. And it was the first time we'd ever done sort of like the whole PR thing and actually approaching people and stuff, and it was the response was actually really good. You know, people were pre-ordering it. There was sales. There was a vinyl planned. We were like, okay, let's go. Obviously, that's it now. This is my new job. And then a record company got in touch and said, this is how we're going to spread it out. Slip Trick Records. And they were like, well, we want to sell it in Europe. You know, people are listening to you there and this sort of stuff. And we were like, okay, let's go. That sounds amazing. Now, nothing happens fast with a record label.
No.
So all these people are sat here going, I've given you my money. Where's my goddamn CD? And I'm like, I don't know. Speak to them. But you don't want to lose fans, so you've got to be honest, you know.
Yeah.
So, and it was a very slow process getting it ready for release. And I think it's the 25th of July. They're actually finally putting it out, and it's gonna be good. There's like pre-sales in Europe and all sorts of things. So
that's
quite
cool.
Yeah, it's quite exciting. So I think that's going to be our target market. Go buy some bratwurst.
Steins.
That will be a lot of traveling.
Not good for a recluse, right? But, you know,
will it be released on like all physical formats? Is the vinyl still in the play-in, or?
We actually might be getting ourselves in trouble here, but we did actually sell a lot of the vinyls, and they were made and shipped, and we've got lovely photos of people holding them. Quite proud of them. So again, you know, we'll see how that plays out. But I don't think that's a problem because it's a licensing deal, so they're not exclusively buying the album. They just bought the rights to sell it for 2 years and promote it and things like that. So I think it is actually okay.
I'm just makes to move upstairs. 1 second.
Okay. No worries, mate. It's so it makes me sound more rebellious than perhaps we are. It's just it was a crossover thing, but I believe it's coming to Digipack. Really nice gatefold Digipack, and I don't think they're doing a vinyl on this run, so they're super limited edition now. I love that. I don't have one, but you know, I'd quite like one.
I was going to say you should probably have one yourself. You know, it's your album. This
is what I thought. I thought there were going to be some left over. You know, natural modesty's like, nah, we'll have a box load of them. It'll be all right. Give one to my mum for Christmas. You know, no, they all went.
No.
There we go.
Yeah, there's no signal in the pit.
And I wanted to do cassette as well. I wanted to do tape.
Yeah, they're coming back.
I love tape. It sounds great. It's such a warm sound. I love it. But you know, I think we put up the idea for pre-sales of tapes, and about 2 people got in touch, and I was just like, no, believe that. That's the exact number of people in the UK that own a tape player. 2.
That's it. It's a great idea, but it's very niche, isn't it?
It is niche.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to come back. I've got a few cassettes myself, but it's hit and miss.
Some of my favorite albums I've got on tape, and I've got a tape player here. I don't know if you can see it, but you probably can't see it. And you press play on it, and you listen to them, and there's and they're just completely ruined. Well, I've listened to them to death as a kid. Some albums sound better that way.
Well, yeah, but it's like, again, the whole generation thing is you go, what's the correlation between a cassette and a pencil? And if you don't know, you're too young.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Spinning it round like that.
If she doesn't get it, she's too young for you, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, right. So how do you record if you're both in like completely opposite ends of the country?
Well, usually I will demo up some ideas. I've got an electric kit in here and various bits and pieces. And I've got a studio that I run as a production company as well. That's what I do during the day, as it were. And I'll get these ideas together and I'll send them over to Sean with a very, very loose brief. I'll let him take it from there.
Yeah, so where I've just come from, the place where your signal goes to die, I built a little cellar studio. We called it the Spider Pit. Now it's just shortened to the Pit. So I've got myself a modest little setup there, and yeah, he sends some stuff over to me and goes, right, this is where I'm at. Keep add some evil vocals, as it were. Yeah,
Let's not start that.
I'm starting.
Let's not start that.
That's why I'm here.
True.
It's why you brought me in. Yeah, and he just goes, yeah, play something on that, find space for your vocals, and you know, I'll use what I need to use, and I always just overdo it, so he's got more to play with. Yeah. Same as when I write something, I try and get some sort of idea. I haven't got an electric kit, so I have to manually input everything, get a vibe of the drums, send it over to him, and then he can make them sound like actual drums.
Because it also works the other way as well. Sean sends songs through to me. There's 2 really great songs that are going to go on the next record, and they are amazing. And so then I have to try and realize them from my side as well, while staying true to, you know, how he pitches them. So it's quite collaborative, and then we sit on things for a little while. So we don't mess around. Things get done quick, and then we let it rest. Because inevitably, when you're walking around with your headphones on, you hear things that you don't hear when you're in the moment.
Yeah,
and I think that's such an informed part of the process that sort of really allows you to cut out the stuff where other people are walking around listening to it, going, meh. You're trying to get rid of the.
Yeah. Headphones to us are a big deal. You'll send over a demo. I'll get a minute and I'll listen to it on my phone and go, right, I like how that sounds. The headphones are going on now. And then I'll really get into it. Having just heard it, I'll then listen to it immediately again with headphones and go, right, maybe try this, maybe have a look at that. And same with him stuff as well.
They just make everything sound different, don't they?
They do. Yeah. It's to do with the binaural sort of field, because things sound like they're left and right. But when you put them into speakers, they're not. They're not actually that far around. So it's quite an interesting thing. Things sound great on headphones. They sound shit on speakers. That's usually the rule. So you got to try and find that balance.
I've got to ask, because it's one. Have you got 2 cups?
2 cups?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
It's like you're drinking from 2 different cups.
Yeah. This is a. No, I've only got 1 cup. What's made you think I've got 2 cups?
I think it was just where it was like on the video, it just looked like it was a different cup to what you were drinking from.
Do you know what? That would have been one of the most masterful interview techniques of all time. So just keep drinking from a different cup every time. Damn it, I should have thought of that. You're a genius.
Just don't ask him what's in the cup and everyone gets on fine.
Yeah, that's probably safer.
Well, I'm going to go, it's got Costa written on it, so I'm hoping coffee.
Diversionary tactics. Diversionary tactics. No, I haven't gone. I've actually cut down on drinking booze out of cups. I haven't cut down on booze, but I've cut down on booze out of cups. You know, tastes better.
Yeah, Bailey's out of a shoe.
Must be a northern thing. No, just the 1 cup.
Oh dear, sorry. You said Bailey's out of a shoe, and my brain instantly went, "Oh, Greg!"
She gets it.
She gets it.
I love the Boosh. It's fine.
Can't beat a bit of the Boosh.
Oh, exceptional.
All right. Anyway, do you have any live shows planned, like coming up around the single release?
Well, that's an interesting thing, actually. That we were chatting about it just before we came on here. Playing gigs in this country is a mess at the moment. It really is a mess. In the South, it's like a no-go at all. Unless you're a big touring production with lots of money behind you, it's almost impossible. Now, up north, there is a rock scene, but from what I can tell, it's very much you have to be of a certain look to make it happen. You have to be in that whole thing. You have to pretend you're from Hollywood and, you're singing songs about being fallen angels and stuff. I don't know what they're about. I can't work them out. I have no idea what they're talking about. I listened to it. I was like, what on earth is that song about? And so it's very hard to sort of penetrate that at that level, because that's the ideal size venue we would be looking at this stage, and so it seems like a closed door in a lot of ways, which leads into Slip Trick. Records, sort of saying, come play in Europe. And we're like, yeah, we'll do that instead. My grasp on English being as bad as it is, it won't be any hindrance, So we looked into that, and then we found out that post Brexit, Europe is now a nightmare to do. So the idea of touring Europe is also off the table.
Yeah, they've just made it more difficult, haven't they? Because you've got like visas and stuff now, and you're actually putting more money out than you're going to get in.
Have you heard about the T-shirt thing, the merch sales?
Yeah.
You have to tell them what you're going to sell in advance. Now, I've done a few drugs in my life, but I can't tell the future. I certainly can't predict how people are going to spend their money. Otherwise, I'd probably be doing a better job. I'd probably be earning more than a musician pays. But so what we looked at was actually festivals in Europe. So it looks like Slip Trick are putting us on some bills, and that's sort of into sort of the later half of the year. And we're going to be going out there on flights and picking up gear locally. And, if the Visa people are watching this video, this is just artistic license and storytelling. I've never played music in my life, officer. But that's essentially how we're going to go. We are going to do shows in the UK. I think later in the year. We have got some bits and pieces planned that are quite exciting. But we're not going to be one of those bands that plays to death, if you know what I mean. We're not going to be able to massive wagons it and sort of play every toilet around to build it up.
Yeah.
We're going to have to try and keep the shows pretty special and be worth traveling to, So if we are coming by, check us out, because you don't know when the next time we will be able to.
This is it. We were talking about, like, at least in the UK, just spot shows here and there, picking one, and then it might be another couple of months, and then we'll go to somewhere different and do our show. Just trying to establish relationships with bands that do that as well, so it's not just us turning up and people going, well, who are you? But if it's another band that is in a similar sort of style and place that we are, if we can get on with them as well, then obviously they've got someone to play off of, and we've got new people to play to as well, because ultimately, because we haven't played anywhere yet as this version of the band, no one really knows who we are in that sense yet. So we know we can't sell out a medium-sized venue based on who we are, because who are we? Who am I?
Well, I call it creating demand. At the end of the day, so many bands there's two types of bands from medium level downwards. They're ones who have a legacy member, so someone who was a thing at one point in their career, and that's why people come to them.
Yeah.
Or they're ones who are just inviting their mates. Neither of those things are useful to us, really. Because I was in a band when I, my early 20s, and we did really well, a band called Little London. We were quite an underground band, but we made enough waves that we played at the first and the second Sonosphere up at Nebworth, so we really, really got somewhere. Problem was that didn't convert into money, and just got fed up of being hungry, so went and got a job and hated that. And so we come back, but the music landscape is not the same now with social media. You can't just book shows, play gigs and fill them up with people anymore. That doesn't really exist, especially in the UK. People only go to shows if they know what they're going to see. People don't go to a show for a night out, whereas in Europe they still do.
Yeah.
They're like, what's in town? It's a rock show. Who is it? Never heard of him. Let's go anyway. They don't do that here. No one does that here. No one sees a rock show as a night out. They are gracing it with their presence.
No, and that's why all the venues, like especially grassroots ones, are closing down.
Yeah, of course. Because people don't see it as a night out anymore. They don't want to go out to be entertained. They want to stay home on their iPads and listen to the same music they've been listening to for 20 years. I
actually read someone's post not too long ago. She works for a promotion in Liverpool and Manchester. They're having problems with venues at the minute because they're not getting enough pre-sales to then warrant wanting to open the venue to them.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to take the risk on people just turning up. So there's a handful of gigs there alone that just get cancelled because the venues have said, well, we don't think you've sold enough, so no.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the problem that bands like us are going to face.
Well, there have been offers as well as a final thing. Sorry, we're rambling on.
No,
Aren't we rambling on? Aren't you ever like, God, I wish I hadn't asked. But like, we have had offers of gigs. We've had some really cool ones. I think JJ from City Kids up north, you know, he really wanted to get us up to a couple of shows that he was doing to launch his new record. But the way we want to do things, I always envisioned it as two types of shows we would do. There would be like the guerrilla show where we would turn up. And I mean guerrilla in the sort of combative sort of term. So Sean, no. I mean, the sort of show where we turn up, we keep it really dirty, like, you know, 3-piece on the stage, really tearing it up, because we know that works. We know that really works. And we've got a set list varied enough to be able to pick songs to be able to deliver that.
Yeah.
But there's also like a bigger show which incorporates some of the more esoteric stuff we do, you know, it's just trying to find the shows that will work for that. But that one is quite expensive to pull off because we have to hire in musicians to fill out the numbers and stuff. And it, you know, when someone's offering you a cut of the bar for going to do that, it's like, rather hire the place and do it ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's trying to find a balancing act between all of it. And I spent most of my life on tour when I was in my early 20s, so not in a dire rush to go out and play shows to 12 people, you know. I'd love it. I would love it, but it's got to make sense, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just stroking your own ego at that point.
Yeah, I know. Like the venue I used to work at as a sound tech, we'd have bands on every Friday and Saturday, but half the time the audience was just filled up with the other bands.
Oh yeah.
And their friends and drunk people who didn't care.
No. And I see that translating. I see that tough gig sound tech, by the way. I did that for 8 years. And I was in America for 3 of those years as a sound tech. It was carnage. But I think that translates into social media in a way, you know, like you can watch a band getting 100 to 1,000 likes on their posts, you know, and again, that cuts down into 3 different groups. Is it a legacy person that perhaps was big in the early 90s? See, now they come to social media, people feel like they're communicating with them, so they get huge engagement. But are they selling anything? Are they getting any bigger? Are they bringing anyone else in? Usually not. You might see a band that can pull 200, say, likes and comments on just an average post. How many of those people are actually fans of what they do, or just people they know? I mean, how many band posts do you see that have 4 likes, and how many people are in the band?
Yeah.
You know, that's the same as playing a gig to 4 people and they're in the other band.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you've got to try and avoid that, because that gets demoralizing really quickly, you know. And we've been quite lucky that once we do get people's attention, which is the hardest thing to pull off these days, is giving people a reason to listen to you. I think once we've got their attention, we've been quite lucky that we've retained them, or I don't like the term fan, but people enjoy what we do, you know, and they stick around, and I really like that. That feels more important than just a lot of fair weather friends clicking on your post.
It's quality over quantity, isn't it?
Absolutely. You want steady growth.
Yeah.
Steady growth. Kind of like the opposite of me as a person.
So who or what inspires you musically?
Sean, do you want to take this one? I'm sick of the sound of my voice.
I mean, at the minute, for me, it's a lot of what I have listened to. At the minute, I'm going back to the well of stuff that I enjoyed in my 20s. That's not to say that things that are coming out now I don't enjoy as well. I'm going back to familiarity. So I'm listening to a lot of, you know, like Scott Sorry and Rancid. So that's all coming through in my writing at the minute.
I can hear that.
Yeah. when it comes to writing lyrics, it's always the hardest thing for me to do. So for that, I'm trying to draw on my own personal life experiences without making it a song about me necessarily. I'm trying to flip things that I've gone through and turn it into a story rather than, hey, look at me, this is how I felt, blah, blah, blah. Like this is how we have felt at some point. So it's more accessible and not just, all right, nice one, what's next?
Here's a song about being a fallen angel. No.
Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Walking down the strip. No, you're not. You're not. Yeah. You live in Doncaster. You are not walking down the strip. Eyeliner does not make you more glamorous as a musician. It doesn't. It makes you look cool. But that's anyway.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to write songs that can be related to. Like I'm not trying to write about things and places that I've never been and never done.
I think for me, I think me and Sean cross over a lot in our musical tastes. We actually met, but it's quite a cool story of how we met. I went to Wolverhampton to like a Ginger Halloween show many years ago. God knows when that was. 10 years, maybe more?
9 years.
8, 9 years. And I was hammered and I was dressed as a zombie and I was so drunk. I was stand at the back with your shirt off, drunk. You know, I was really, really drunk. And fortunately, there was another guy at the back who was just as drunk as me. So we ended up, we ended up arms around each other, singing at the top of our lungs, just having a great time. Lost each other a little bit later, and that was that. And 10 years later, head to lockdown, I started doing some playthrough videos of Wild Heart songs and things, just playing guitar to him, stuff to keep me busy.
Yeah.
And Sean starts getting in touch with me, and you know, because he also does videos like that at the time. And we start chatting and having a laugh and getting on. And months go by, and then suddenly I talk about this Wolverhampton show I went to one point. Exactly how that conversation started. He went, "Yeah, I was there. Oh, I remember getting smashed at the back with some dude." And I was like, "Dude, that was me." He was like, "Oh my God." So we started a band.
That was it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it was just weird that we'd met like randomly in that sense and then sort of picked it up. So
see, and that's why rock shows should exist more.
Exactly. Look at the music, it's now bought the world.
Yeah.
And so our tastes sort of cross over that sort of Brit rock sort of time, which often gets misinterpreted as bands like Oasis and stuff, but I don't see Brit rock as that. I see it as like the Almighty, Terrorvision, the Wild Hearts, Therapy, you know, Manic Street Preachers, that sort of side of things. But I've also really, I really love sort of Devin Townsend's more aggressive and ambient works and Faith No More. And yeah, I find stuff like that really, it sort of pushes me forward. I've moved away from being influenced by the Wild Hearts so much, mainly because they're such a unique thing. The way they do it is their way of doing it, and I think the way we do it is our way of doing it.
Yeah.
But as soon as you do a big riff and you don't scream over it, you sing over it, people just go, "Oh, you're the Wild Hearts." It's like, no, we're not. But we're not trying to be either. I try to be served by the song. I find, like Sean said, I don't want to get into concept album territory for too long. It's just turned out that, you know, the first album, I'd gone through a messy divorce and screwed my life up, and I was like, let's make it about that. The second album, things had gone very wrong, and I had to clean my life up. And then this album, obviously, was a reaction to quite a huge loss. And now me and Sean have already started work on the next record, and there's no blueprint other than cheer the fuck up, Dev. Like, you know, so which is an exact phrase he has said to me. And it's worked. You know, this again is a huge departure. Every band likes to think that they're, you know, able to move between genres and stuff, but I like to think that every song is a bit different. You know, like we approach it different. There's no template. It's let the song inform itself, you know, and sort of move on from there. And I think that comes from like the Faith No More side of things. You know, you put on 12 tracks of Faith No More, you have no clue what's coming next.
Just add some ukulele in, you'll be happy.
Do you know what? I think you're right.
It's so hard to be sad with a ukulele on,
isn't it? I had one of those. You ever had one of those keyboards where you blow in the tube?
Oh yeah.
It's impossible to be sad with one of them. Impossible. I've tried it. You know, crying into one of them. It's a bit staccato, but it works.
So where did the name Punishment Essay come from?
Him.
Yeah, this is a me one. I was actually working for Brit Row up in London as a sort of freelance engineer, and I'd really hurt my back, so I was doing a lot of warehouse work at the time, and I'd come off the road. At this point, one of my marriages had fallen apart, and I sort of looked at myself and thought, maybe I'm not always the good guy in the story, you know? So I went and booked a holiday to Morocco with a very good friend of mine, Arthur Mazza. And we went out there and we met these girls out there, and they were they turned out to be RAF intelligence officers. It was fascinating. We've been, you know, getting drunk with them and being debaucherous degenerates together. It turned out they had this like really eloquent, wonderful job. And we got talking, and I just remember one time saying, yeah, and they made me do a punishment essay that day. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And they were like, oh, well, when you do something wrong in the forces, they make you write down what you did wrong, how you approached it in the wrong way, what you've learned from it, and how you're going to be better in the future. I was like, God, that's brutal. That's exactly what I need to do. So it just kind of embedded itself there. And then I went home and did volume 1 over the course of a month. Just decided to be really honest about myself. So, you know, what had I done wrong, and what was I approaching in the wrong way? And it came out really as an aggressive album, but afterwards I felt awesome. I felt so good. I felt so good. I was like walking around like a ray of sunshine. Everyone was like, yeah, I'll check out your record. Oh my God. You know, and then I put that to bed for a while, you know, and then some bad things happened again, and I found myself doing volume 2, and things sort of grew from there. And I think that's kind of where it made sense, because I was all under Dev Crawford at the time, which I never really liked the idea of. I don't, you know, you always imagine one dude, Bryan Adams, you know, it's not. I like Bryan Adams, but you know, it's like, hey, here's me and some dudes.
Yeah.
That just sucks.
Devon the Crawfords.
Devon the Crawfords. Devon the lads. You know, like, no. You got to have a bit of. Also, an interesting thing, when it was just Dev Crawford, I'd get a lot of people messaging me direct, saying things like, "Really like your stuff." I'm like, "Great, what can I do with that?" You know, nothing. You know, there's no engagement there at all, is there? You know, it's just, so you're building personal relationships, but that doesn't translate to any algorithm stuff.
No.
So as soon as we changed it to punishment essay, it just started to grow almost immediately. It was like, people want to follow a band. You know, people don't like
solos is just like, when it's just one name, it's like, oh, you're a bit egotistical.
Do you think that's how it comes across? Because when I was a kid, remember Dave Grohl released the first Foo Fighters album?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, he did this himself. And everyone was like, oh my God, Dave Grohl. How many dicks has he got? You know? And it's like, it was a great thing. You know, Trent Reznor doing 9 Inch Nails, everyone was like, wow, it's amazing. He does that all himself. Now we live in the age where people don't know what they're listening to. They don't know the authenticity of what they're listening to, especially with AI and stuff like that.
Well, yeah.
You know, and I think people, like, you've got to be a real band. People want that again, I think. And I think having a band name sort of legitimizes that a lot, you know, and also going away from Devon the Crawfords. It's growing on me, Sean. It is growing on me.
Side project.
Yeah, it's like Benny and the Jets, but really shit. And yeah, I'm rambling again on that. I'm terribly sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it.
Having it as a band name, it diverts confusion a bit more, doesn't it?
Yeah, because also I do a lot of production work with other bands, and I do something called Neon Devil, which is like really dark synthwave stuff. It's the best description I can give of it. Now, of course, when that was all under Dev Crawford, you go, people get in touch going, yeah, I like the metal stuff. And then they get this like synthy song and they're like, yeah, he's an arsehole. You know, and you want to try and compartmentalize that into places people can go, because people don't have a lot of time to invest in finding stuff these days. You got maybe one click at best to get to.
No, to be fair, that's why I started this whole podcast.
Yeah.
I've always loved finding, like, going out. It was just the way I was raised. I was raised by a musician. Going out and finding new music, it's always been an obsession. And then it just, with the internet and stuff like that, it just got harder and harder and harder.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd think it'd be easier. Right?
Yeah, you'd think, but then I started this and I was like, you tell you what, I'll do the hard work. I'll go out and find the cool bands. You can find them all in one place.
I like that. I think that's awesome.
Dev, she thinks we're cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure she's convinced yet. I'm not sure. Not after most of the stories we've told. No,
I've heard the song. It's fun. I like it.
It's a good song, right?
It is a good song.
It is a good song. It's this is an interesting thing, actually. I meant to touch on it earlier on. We were looking at demographics, right? This is a weird thing, because I suppose back in the day, right, pre sort of social media,
they release really old. You realise that?
I am so old. Like, I am so old. You have no idea how old I am. I mean, it's not hard to find, but I'm so old. But pre-social media, right? Like, I suppose record companies, you were really beholden to the information they had. If they said, "Oh, most people buying your records are 25-year-old males," who are into these bands, and you could market it that way. Today, you can sort of see exactly who is clicking on your Spotify songs.
Yes.
It's crazy. Turns out, lots of Scandinavian women, lots of American males, and loads of people in Australia and Europe. And we were like, okay. And the UK, funny thing is, in the UK, they tend to buy it. So they're not really using Spotify to find smaller bands. That they're still supporting bands. Which I think is quite cool. Whereas Americans, they just want to consume it, which it's also cool. Reach is a good thing. But we look on them, we look at the demographic, and we're looking at women and men, and women are catching up with this album as an audience, and they're starting to overtake it. So this is probably a good time for a song that's not quite as blisteringly metal as some of the stuff, some of the earlier stuff was. Because I'm moving away from that a little bit as well. So we use the term, Lizzie, our manager, sort of used the term, it's girls' music. We're like, what on earth is girls' music? Because of course, there is no difference. She doesn't mean it in that sense. She's talking about, say, bands like the Manics. The reason the Manics was so huge was because they had their male audience, which was huge, but also just a fiercely passionate female audience as well. And they appealed to both of them organically. There was no deliberate attempt. It's like, we're going to write this song as girls' music. We're going to write this as boys' music. There's nothing that silly. But it's nice to have that third party within our team, because Lizzie's a huge part of what we do. She'll sort of sit there and go, I think that appeals more to that sort of Manics sort of broadness, And that's quite interesting, because, of course, me and Sean, we're in it. We're in the song, and sometimes it's hard to see how it translates.
Yeah.
And I who doesn't want to have a crowd of people? Because the other thing is, when you make technical music, you get musicians at your gigs. You get musicians getting in touch, being like, dude, I love your stuff. They all say dude. I don't know where that came from. But they're all like, dude, we love your stuff. It's like, yeah, great. Musicians are awful people. They do not want to buy your stuff. They feel like, by listening to it, they've done you a huge service, gracing you with their time. It's not a good fan base to have. It's good for your ego, perhaps, to have other musicians say, we really like what you do, or that song's really, really cool. but people who are actually fans of music, they're the ones that make it, like, when it lands with them, that I think it matters more.
Well, they're the ones buying it and pushing it, and their friends to listen to it.
Being a part of the soundtrack of people's lives is like, as overly dramatic as that sounds, if you think about it, all the songs you put on in your life when you're walking around, they matter. They all really matter. And to just think that you've become a part of that for some people is, it's huge. That's the best reason to do it, I think.
So I've only got one more question. This one sometimes stumps people. Sometimes they answer straight away. So
this is your one, Sean.
If you could rock out with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh. When you say rock out,
yeah,
do you mean like play music with?
Yeah, jam with, yeah.
Oh, that's
Scott, sorry. Immediately.
There's a bit of a man crush going on there. There's a little bit of a man crush going on there. I'd have to say probably Mike Patton from Faith No More. I'd love to make an album so weird that, you know, even we didn't want to buy a copy of it. So it'd be like him eating carrots while I play badly on a cello, screaming into a funnel, you know, and we'll get an army of nose flute players and it'll be 5 hours long.
Well, that has to happen.
You know what I mean? Who wouldn't buy that? No one. That's who. But I think, Mike Patton he's just an incredible talent. And the fact that he made singing and using his voice such a respected thing, because, you know, you think the time he came from, singers they were still remnants of the 80s, you know, where it was all about, you know, posturing and stuff like that. And there's him who's undeniably a pretty boy, determined to make himself as repulsive as possible to the entire world, you know, and failing miserably. But yeah, Townsend or Churchill. I reckon he could play a mean guitar solo. You know? Or a drummer. Don't you think Churchill looks like a drummer?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I can just imagine him sitting down and just giving it some Buddy Rich.
Yeah. I picture him as like a North Midlands sort of 80s style drummer. You know, his name's something like Stumpy Stick Hitter or something, you know, because they were all called Bones or something back in the 80s. You couldn't have a drummer who didn't have a nickname. They all had to have a nickname. Bones McGee. You know, good drummer, terrible person.
So where can people find you?
So if you check, there's 3 main ways to find out about us. If you go onto Spotify and search for Dev Crawford or Punishment Essay, they'll bring up everything we do. We're on Bandcamp as well as Punishment Essay only. You get us on Facebook, and we're constantly updating. And Sean makes some awesome skit videos and bits and pieces. He's the interesting one of the band. And also, if you join the mailing list, which is at needsleeprecords@gmail.com, you can get free songs from us, because we actually give quite a lot of stuff away. I don't know if bands still do that, but you know, there's songs you can only get hold of through the mailing list and things like that. So it's good fun to be a part of.
So no TikTok, no nothing like that.
We did have a TikTok, but Lizzie got us banned.
Yeah.
Lizzie got us banned after she decided her bum was going to be wiggled in the camera, and then you know how TikTok is.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's okay to do it if you have 1 million followers, but if you've only got a few amount of followers, then they don't like it. You know, there is an Instagram as well, but it's all Punishment Essay. It's all easy to find.
Yeah, there's a lot of cross promotion from the personals as well. So I put something up, I tag Punishment Essay in it, and they just have to find out about it later.
Yeah, Sean. Sean brings a lot of the fun to the social media, and Lizzie does a great job of running it for us, because I'm useless at it. I don't understand it. I really don't.
This is it. It's give me free reign because you don't use it as much. I can just post something at your expense, and then you find out about it later.
He does.
A couple of weeks, I've done a full heel turn. Everyone thinks I'm dead nice, but I just pick on Dev now.
He released all these videos with him dressed as me. He looks nothing like me.
I look exactly like you.
He looks nothing like me.
I'm even doing you right now.
I don't point all the time. Have you noticed my arms have been like this the whole time, just to prove?
I have noticed. Yeah, I feel like that was on purpose, so that I
haven't
can't.
been like that the whole time. You've been doing this with your cup.
Oh yeah, with my many cups.
He's been keeping his hands occupied so he doesn't point.
Devon is many cups of justice.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, do you have anything else you want to say to anybody listening?
Yeah, keep supporting independent music, because a big record deal is not a sign of quality. And an up and coming band, they were all up and coming bands at one point. So if you're the sort of person who goes online saying I hate music these days, come and find a band that actually is making it for the purpose of the music being good. There is no other reason for doing this other than trying to find people to connect to who want to hear music the way we do. Come check us out. You might be surprised.
Right now, for a band like us, there is no right place, right time. We're just doing it. We're not hiding it. Come and find us.
Yeah, come get some. As cheesy as it sounds, it's true. Come get some. Come get some. We've got the goods.
Oh, there'll be trouble.
There'll be trouble.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. And for listening to just my inane nonsense.
Even if it is stupidly early in the morning.
This is as for a musician, basically, this is the middle of the night.
Yeah, It's the middle of the night.
It is the middle of the night. I'm sorry. Sorry you endured that.
It's fine. I'm going to go make coffee. So,
Same.
Great plan.
Yeah. Right, thank you for coming on.
It's been really nice getting to meet you and chat to you. It's been great.
Yeah. And I will speak to you later.
Take care.
Good luck with the single release.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. See you later. Bye.